We are just one other being, not the highest, not the only, not the one that can control it all.
Welcome to the Hen Report. This is Jasmin Singer.
This is Mariann Sullivan.
And we're going to be joined in just a minute by one very cool veganic farmer. I mean, kind of all veganic farmers are probably cool, but this particular one, Jimmy Videle, is also an author, and I would say is particularly cool. He was on the podcast back in 2023, and he's here to tell us about this year's Veganic Summit. So before we get to that, and we'll bring Jimmy on in just a second, a quick reminder about the Our Hen House podcasts. Rising Anxieties comes out on Tuesdays, the Hen Report, which is this, on Thursdays, the long form interview on Fridays, and the bonus material for Flock members comes out on Monday. We are on YouTube now as well, so please subscribe and hit like wherever you listen or watch. All right, so I promised you a cool person. I'm going to deliver a cool person. Welcome back to our hen house, Jimmy.
Hey, thank you so much, Jasmin and Mariann. It's just absolutely my pleasure to be here with you both. You two are amazing, and thank you profusely.
You have an amazing energy, and it's not just because you just called us amazing. Like, you're just...
It's all just amazing.
I love it. Like, you just are like a ray of sunshine. Before we get to the summit, for those who may have missed the interview a couple years ago, tell people where in the world you are and like a little about the farm and what you've been growing this year.
Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Jimmy Videle, and I live in a little hamlet called Boileau, Quebec. It's about 2 hours northwest of Montreal, 2 hours northeast of Ottawa. In the mountains, in the forest, a very, very beautiful place. Our farm is called La Ferme de l'Eau. And this year was an exceptionally challenging year, as all farming years are, but we had a really, really beautiful year for potatoes and onions and carrots and beets, and tomatoes were okay, but not fantastic. But we still grew 27 different varieties of tomatoes. So we cultivate basically about 75% of what we eat. And in the wintertime, it might even go up even more because it's so cold up here in Quebec, we make lots of soups. So we use all of our own root veggies to make those kinds of soups. So yeah, it was again a challenging year, but just like every year, at the end of the year, there's always something to fill our bellies and fill our fridges.
I'm getting hungry just talking about it. Soup sounds good right now. All right, so I mean, obviously, the reason that you're on and the reason that we're talking to you is that you are a veganic farmer, and I bet that a lot of our listeners know what that means, but maybe not all of them. So can you just explain the basics? What veganic farming is?
Sure. I really like this definition that was created. So I would kind of spell it out for you all. Vegan organic gardening and farming is cultivation of fruit and fiber crops with the minimal amount of exploitation to all plant and animal beings. In addition to the national organic standards, veganic growing methods use no animal products or byproducts. So we don't use anything like manures or ureas or blood meal or bone meal or fish meal or any of that, because what we feel and what we know is the production of any of these products either harms animals specifically or is connected with the exploitation and subsequent suffering of these beings. So we absolutely don't want to use these particular products in our fields. Furthermore, while organic cultivation will use things like organopesticides and organofungicides, veganic growers do not, because we believe that this specifically harms the biodiversity that we're trying to create, which really brings us up to the most interesting point of veganics, which is we cultivate diversely to ensure biodiversity. And how do we cultivate in our fields without using all these manures? Because all the books in the world will tell you about, and even organic books and conventional books will tell you need to use either chemicals, you need to use manures. Well, we use plants to grow plants. You know, for us, it's the ethical principle of how we grow our food. It's not just how we eat and what we put into our mouths, but how we cultivate those products that we do eat.
So I have a question for you. When I mentioned to a couple people that we were going to be chatting with you, I had some feedback that was like, oh, well, I try and buy only organic. And, a lot of people say that, like, especially a lot of vegans, I think, are concerned about the pesticides, but they're also concerned about workers' rights and things like that. And for the vast majority of people who are just buying food as opposed to growing food, that's what's available to them. So can you just talk a little bit about kind of the organic mentality and what's not vegan about it, and where you think a vegan might want to draw the line or not draw the line as far as organic produce at the grocery store?
Yeah, that's an interesting question and kind of an interesting dilemma. It's we don't really have a lot of options. If we go to the grocery store, all we're going to see is conventional produce or organic produce. So the question then you have to decide for yourself is first budget. Do you have the money to purchase organic produce, which unfortunately in the grocery store sometimes looks worse and costs twice as much than conventional produce? But if for whatever reason you do find it and it looks good, then yeah, my suggestion would be buy organic, because you're eliminating all GMOs, because organic does not allow GMOs, and you are eliminating all chemical sprays. So things like Roundup that we know of, or anything produced by Dow Monsanto, which we really don't want to be eating, and any kind of herbicides either, right? So that's the choice that you have. Now, how can you sort of get and move towards a sort of more veganic way of eating? Well, you're really going to either have to, one, do it yourself, which is what we're going to be talking about, what the Veganic Summit is all about, or you're going to go to your local closest farmer to you. We all pretty much in our communities within maybe probably 15, 20 miles these days have either a farmer's market or have what's called a CSA, which is community supported agriculture, where our farmers are producing us fruits, vegetables, and herbs. You can ask them or even show them that there are these they're not new techniques, but these other techniques that they probably maybe have heard of, but most likely have never read about in their own, if they went to, say, organic agriculture school or any kind of agriculture school, or got their knowledge from old farmers. It's for sure that they didn't hear about veganic practices. So, but they are out there, and it's really not that difficult to change. So how to change over? Yeah, try not to think about it too much. If it's organic produce, you're eating all vegetables anyway. So of course you're vegan. You're eating all fruits and grains and nuts and seeds and legumes. So you're doing everything that you can in the world that we live in. But that's what the Veganic Summit is for. That's what we're trying to show, that there's this revitalized revolution, and that the way that we can grow our food, that there's this new, again, it's not new, but it's, let's say newly rediscovered way of growing our food so that animals don't need to be exploited or suffer in any of our systems.
So I'm totally putting you on the spot. I realize this is not necessarily your specialty, but we've talked a bit here and there about vegan wine and beer on our hen house, and Mariann and I are lucky enough to live right near a vegan wine store where all of the wine is vegan, which is awesome. But like, is it the same thing when people buy organically produced wine? I guess it's possible that wine wasn't necessarily filtered through fish bladders or eggs, but it's still the same issue as the vegetables you're seeing at Whole Foods, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, absolutely. Well, unfortunately, again, you would just kind of need to open the communication, open the conversation with the farmer, with the winemaker, send emails, talk with if you think of at the farm, the grapes that are grown, you pretty much ask them, so how do you fertilize your grapes? They're going to let you know how they do. Same thing with the produce, is that it's possible that they are using maybe their own compost. Maybe I know a couple of vegans that have a farm. It's an organic farm. They share vegan recipes, but their farm is not veganic, but they do many of the techniques that we use. It's just that there are certain animal byproducts they use because they hadn't been able to find a substitute. And again, that's something that we try to discuss and talk about through the Veganic Summit and through other things that we work on. But yeah, open the communication line. But sure, it's not necessarily that they're not vegan. Again, you just need to be You just need to be curious and act.
I know Mariann has a question. I just want to say, when I was a kid growing up in the 80s, we only ate like frozen Weight Watchers meals or frozen TV dinners. And they were all like in these cardboard squares with the cellophane over them. And I absolutely, I grew up in suburban New Jersey, outside of New York City. I had no concept of where food came from. Like meat and animal products, absolutely none. But even everything else, none. And the fact, like when you say, oh, communicate with your farmer, like there is a little girl inside of me that's like, what? You mean the food doesn't come from the freezer in the garage where we keep the Weight Watchers meals? I digress. Mariann, I know you have a
No,
question.
but I think you make a good point that I don't think with that. I think that was a typical experience, particularly in the 80s, like a decade of like with very odd attitudes. But I don't think we're that far back. I think we've come some. I think people are more aware of food than they were in the 80s. So even though we haven't even made close to enough progress, some progress. And speaking of progress, notice my segue. All right, Jimmy, I didn't know about this, but until we were going to talk to you today about the summit. But since we spoke last, in addition to your book, the iconic Veganic Grower's Handbook, you've actually published a new book, Preserving Our Sacred Lands, where the wolves still howl, warblers sing, and whippoorwills grace the night skies. I use the whole title because it's such a beautiful title. So I feel bad because normally I would not interview somebody about their book without having read it. I haven't read it yet. I have ordered it, so I'm going to be reading it. But tell us about the book.
Okay, so Preserving Our Sacred Lands is really my homage to nature, to biodiversity, to saving ecosystems wherever we live. It's really my passion. I became a farmer because I thought it was really the only thing that I could do to make a living that kept me close to nature. I didn't have the skill set to be a researcher, to be out in the natural world, to make a living or make money that way. So for me, it was really to become a farmer, to have my hands in the soil and to always be engulfed in the environment and her and nature. And so when I realized that that was the case, and I was an organic farmer anyway. When I became a veganic farmer and I came here, I realized where we live in a very, very special place. Some people have called it an enchanted forest because of just the way it's situated. We're in a valley surrounded by mountains on four sides. It's quiet. There's not a lot of ATVs on the trails. There's a few hunters, but not many. There's almost no people that are here. There's over 7,000 acres of land that really has, I think, 5 people living on it. So it's extremely, extremely biodiverse. So when I was realizing where I wanted to go in my future, I mean, when I wrote the Veganic Grower's Handbook, it was pretty much my entire heart and soul of what I've been doing over the last 20 years as a farmer, over almost 30 years of growing my own food and putting it into something that then was there for everybody to have. So I really couldn't really take that any further. I mean, that was my sort of my coup de grace, my way of expressing to the world what it was all about. So preserving our sacred lands was even more so my passion. It's my belief that all of us should think about where we live and think about how we can protect all the lands that haven't been touched by humans, either lately or at all, forever, from now until future generations. That we've come to a point now in our world where we need to stop. We just need to stop developing. And this is what this book will show you. It will show you my journey in this particular year. It was 365 days in a year. I did a 357-day naturalist study. I only missed 8 because, well, I had to go see my parents in California. And the other one, I was off away at work for a couple of days. But I was out in the fields as well as in the fields, but I was out in the field every day, observing, understanding, listening, feeling what was going on, and sort of in a diary type format where I take certain dates and go along the calendar year from October to October. I express our relationship, my relationship to the natural world around me, and taking that to a wider and greater understanding of who we are in this world, what our place is in this world and how we are just one other being, not the highest, not the only, not the one that can control it all, but that actually we are just like any ant. We are just like any grasshopper. We are just like any monarch butterfly. And even less so because we don't migrate so far every year, but and how that relationship allows us to understand why it's super, super important to leave these lands untouched. And this is what I try to express in this book. And actually, while I am doing it, I was in the process of actually protecting it for real as a biodiversity reserve. And now that process, very lovely, is in the hands of our provincial government, and they're assessing to see if it will be actually protected forever. So not only is it in my vision, in my mind that I wanted to see it protected, but now it might actually be on paper and in law.
It sounds extraordinary. It really does. And it really struck me how you tied the local to the global, and everybody lives in a habitat. Like we all live in a habitat. I remember, like, we used to live in Manhattan for many years. There's old growth forest at the very north end of Manhattan. It's never been cut. Like, no matter where you are in the universe, there is not just habitat, but extraordinary habitat if you find it. And that's what this is reminding me about. I'm really looking forward to reading that, and learning about the place where you are, which is not very far from where we both live, though across the border, sadly. But
We'll just get on a canoe and see you in a couple days. Hopefully you'll have food to feed us from your veganic farm because we'll be hungry. Speaking of which, tell us about the summit.
Yeah, let's get to the summit. That's what you're here for.
Okay. So let's talk about the specifics of the summit. So the summit starts, it's an online summit. It begins November 7th. It runs Friday, Saturday, Sunday until November 9th. You can sign up. Actually, everything is up to date and the registrations are now open. You can sign up today at www.veganicsummit.com. Get your free ticket. Now, to keep this in, it's free. There's over 14 presentations from around the world, from India to Scotland to England to Uganda to North Carolina, California, Washington, even me up here in Quebec. So there is many different, again, let's talk about ecosystem, many different ecosystems touched upon, whether people are growing year round, whether you are a beginner, whether you are a farmer, whether you have no experience or 50 years of experience, there is something in this Veganic Summit for you. So there's two different methods of signing up. You can sign up again for free. Once you do sign up for free, there's going to be a link that's going to take you to our all access pass. So if you pay, and this year the early bird special is $37. If you pay for that all access pass, you're going to receive just a boatload of veganic information online in PDF form, including my two books. You're going to receive the Veganic Grower's Handbook and Preserving Our Sacred Lands with that all access pass. All of that money goes to support the summit 100%, so we can keep it rolling year after year after year after year. So that's, and also with the all access pass, which is super, super neat, is you're going to get 3 live question and answer periods that you can only get with the all access pass. One is going to be with Jenny Hall talking about how you can grow your own protein and fertilize with proteins and asking questions about that. So things like growing your own beans and nut trees and how that actually will fertilize your soil, which is very interesting. So using plants to, again, fertilize your soil. You're going to have Megan and Stefan, who are the dynamic duo who created the Veganic Summit. Megan Kelly and Stefan Grollo of Learn Veganic and the Veganic Agriculture Network. Those are the two that spearheaded this summit 3 years ago. This is the 3rd one, and very, very exciting. It's there again. They're going to be doing a question and answer also, mostly about beginning growing. And Stefan is the absolute expert on balcony growing and urban growing. He's got, it's just so cool to see his balcony in northern Quebec City, just thriving with tomato plants and bean vines that are touching his neighbors. I think they even grow in the neighbor's kitchen up through the windows. It's very, very cool. And then me, I'm going to be talking about biodiversity and the no spray philosophy for insects. Because again, in order for us to have biodiverse gardens, we need to have the insect populations and the little mammal populations and the reptiles and the amphibians working with our gardens, helping to mitigate insect pressures without the use of any insecticidal sprays, whether it's organic or not. So that's that. Plus, there's 2 meetups that are run by Megan and Stefan, where this is really the crux of the Veganic Summit, bringing people from all around the world where we then can discuss all of our different projects. We can discuss all our different ideas, all our different challenges. And so we have those meetups available too on all of those are on Zoom. And again, when you sign up for the All Access Pass. So that's part of it. Then there's obviously all the presenters, which I can share some of those here, unless you have any questions.
Well, I do. I am curious if this is for beginners and for serious farmers like yourself. I'm one of those 2 categories, but I won't tell you which one.
Yeah, it's actually for everyone. Okay, this is what the greatest thing is that so we have at least 3 different presentations that are talking about fertility in your gardens, doing it with plants in some kind of way. Megan specifically is talking about 20 different ways you can make compost to then fertilize your gardens. So 20 different ways, not just taking manure and putting it in the garden. This is using plants to grow your plants in 20 different methods. So that's very beginner, but it also takes it to an advanced stage, because even I, who use maybe 10 or 11 different ways of composting, then I look at it, I go, man, I hadn't thought about that before. I want to do that next year. I want to try that. That just seems like fun. It just seems like it would work. We have, again, Stefan doing another live Q&A. This one's in the free summit, where he's going to talk about how to grow on your balcony, how to grow urbanly. You can ask him whatever you like. So this is a beginner's topic too. There's a small scale veganic farm in India that just started. They're an organization who have taken have transitioned a conventional farm. They're very reliant on cattle and on cows. They taken that model of agriculture and then transitioning it completely over to plant-based or veganic agriculture. There is a presentation that is for farmers on how to transition if you are a conventional or an animal raising farmer to growing instead. Yeah, very cool. That's Rebecca Knowles with the Stock Free farming group out of Scotland. And then you're going to have Ian Tolhurst and Helen Aptow, who combined have over 90 years of farming experience. Ian has been growing veganically for 60, and he's going to be talking all about the use of what's called chip branch wood, which is one of our products that we use in veganic growing that is really anywhere that we live where there's a lot of deciduous trees. We need to cut around the power lines, otherwise we don't have electricity to whatever. And they just they trim the trees, and then they chip those branches into chips. He uses the word wood chips. Up north, we call it chip branch wood, but it's all the same thing. And we use that specifically to fertilize our fields. And what's interesting is when I put it on maybe 7-8 years ago for the first time, it's still there. There's pieces of it still there, and it's still acting fungally. It's still working with the microorganisms of the soil. So this is one of those concepts for really brainy agriculture farming people who are like, wait a minute, how do I? Well, there's a way, using chip branch wood. And then Helen Aptow, who now lives in Montana, who transitioned from being an organic farmer to a veganic farmer about 27 years ago or 25 years ago. She also wrote a book called The Ecological Farm. She's going to be talking about her favorite fruit tree varieties, as well as talking about ways to fertilize your gardens using what's called live mulching. So this is more advanced, but then you can think about those things in your own garden. So yes, you have everything from beginner to advanced, you have people talking even about self-sustainability. There's Madison from North Carolina talking about the vegan, kind of having a veganic homestead or veganic self-sustaining homestead where you can actually grow all the food that you need, including seeds for an entire year. There's Sydney from California who works at an all vegan inn called the Stanford Inn in the beautiful Mendocino Coast. And she is their chief veganic gardener.
I've stayed there. It's fabulous.
There you go. And so one of my absolutely favorite presentations that I'm really looking forward to is by a gentleman by the name of Bob Romanzi, who I met a couple of years ago through our organization, Certified Veganic. He runs an organization called the Vegan Village Society, and he supports over 50 women-run villages who are creating veganic gardens in their village to feed their entire communities. This is in the Rwanda district of Uganda. And so through us and through Vegan Organic Network and through his contacts, he's supporting with seeds and tools and all the resources necessary so that these women-led, women-run communities can then feed their communities, growing just the food that they need using only plants. So this is one of those very inspiring presentations, and this is one of the reasons why it is such an inspiring event, is that you see all these people from all around the world doing these things, and to be able to connect live through the All Access Pass when we all get together is really, really neat. It's a really, really neat thing to get involved in. I hope all your listeners can come because I think you'll really find something rewarding.
And it's at veganicsummit.com, which we will link to in the show notes as well. For those of you who are driving or whatever, don't write it down. Pay attention to the road. So just as we start to close, I'm curious, Jimmy, what has changed in the world of veganic farming since you were on in 2023?
I think that it's just become more prevalent. I think it's become more known. I think there are more people becoming involved. There are now people who are realizing that their projects that they have created are worthy of being shown to the world. So we're seeing more social media movement. We're seeing young farmers come in and start their YouTube channels. We're seeing more people write publications. We're seeing more people talk about it. We're starting to see this really key, important piece, which is transitioning over the animal agriculture industry, farmers, to plant-based agriculture. We're starting, even though there's just this huge rise and this huge movement of regenerative animal agriculture, we're still there and we are still growing even more so. We're even more so than we were 3 years ago. We are still there, showing that this is still the ethical alternative. This is the highest ethical standard of growing our own food. Now, I may not, before I die, be able to end animal agriculture, even though this is my goal and my mission. But at least I can say that we have this movement of people that are super, super inspired, and there is no higher ethical standard in growing our food than growing it veganically. And in the end, while I'm lying there and I'm all done and I'm seeing the light and I'm ready to travel on to that other universe and do other grand things as a soul and a spirit, I can say that in the end, I knew this. And if y'all come and if y'all try it, and if y'all have your own gardens or start your own farms, whatever it is that you want to do with veganics, then you'll understand it too. And you'll realize there is no higher ethical standard in the way we eat and the way we produce our own food.
I love that so much. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us today on our Hen House. This has been really fascinating. It's a subject that I'm personally very interested in, albeit I don't want to say intimidated, because I know you'll get in your canoe and come over Lake Ontario and and help me plant something on my stoop or whatever. But you do make something that I am intimidated by a lot less intimidating. And I believe in the future of veganic farming, and that's thanks to you. So
if I can just add, I just think that's such an important point. I think for so many of us, we're just the kind of people who feel like you have to know everything before you do it. And with gardening, a lot of the plants just kind of do it themselves. Like you just stick them. All right, doesn't always work. Doesn't always work. I can swear to that. But a lot of it is kind of just like you stick the thing in the ground and it grows. Like you don't really have to know that much. It kind of knows what to do. Anyway, I just wanted to add that because I get intimidated by it too because I didn't grow up gardening. I don't know that much about gardening, but it's pretty miraculous when you actually do it.
Yeah, that's the magic. That's the magic. The plants know exactly what they want to do. And those tomato plants, they really, really, really do want to give you a nice, red, bright, rich, juicy tomato.
We'll talk to you again, hopefully before another 2 years goes by. But last question, I promise. If you do come back in 2 years, what do you hope will have changed in those 2 years?
Oh, I just hope that what we see is this grand expansion of what it is that we're doing. I hope that we see more people from every corner of our globe, every corner of our beautiful earth, decide that this is where they want to go, that this is how they want to grow their lives and for the people around them. So this is what I want to see. Right now we have, most countries represented, but how about we have 10 different growers in every country? So that would be almost a couple of thousand. So I think that would be pretty cool. We'll see what happens in 2 years.
I'm down with that world. Thank you, Jimmy, so much. That was the incredible Jimmy Videle. He is really inspiring. That was cool. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
He makes me believe I can garden.
You know what? I was in your backyard not that long ago, and there were approximately 10 billion bees back there. It was very...
No, I know. My goal was to just fill it with native plants and help the insects. I don't go so far as to try to grow food. And I'll tell you, it was, like they kind of just all did it themselves. Like, oh yeah, it's okay with you if we grow here? Okay, we'll grow here. It is I love my backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very tiny and it's just full of plants.
Yeah.
It just showed up. Some of them I planted. Most of them, they just showed up.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And I just try to take out the non-native, really invasive stuff.
So let's switch gears and talk about Zoe.
Yeah, there's a couple of I know that I don't want to go too long because whenever you talk to Jimmy, you always talk longer than you think.
Because
there's a couple of stories I really want to get to.
Because I want to pick his brain about everything. That's why. So I'm like, oh, there's a veganic expert on the line. But go ahead, tell us what's going on.
All right. One of the things which people know about, I think, is Zoe Rosenberg's trial. They've finished jury selection. They're now moving into the trial. And I mean, not that much has happened yet, but the thing that did happen that I think is a pretty big deal is there's a big story in the San Francisco Chronicle about it. As we all know, even though these stories are unbelievably newsworthy, it still ain't easy to get press. It's a good article. I mean, it's not like what I would have written. But it really covers the issues pretty well, I think. Tries to be even-handed, but, there's definitely sympathy there. It's called Berkeley Grad's Chicken, quote-unquote, rescue trial. Begins in Sonoma County with question of intent versus crime. They did put rescue in quotes, even though it's clearly about rescue. But I understand why, because that is the question. Did she rescue them or did she steal them? But they used the word rescue. They didn't say theft. That said rescue. So I really like that. And it does point out that, quote, if the jury finds her not guilty of 1 felony conspiracy charge and 4 misdemeanors, it could help DXE and by extension, animal rights activists throughout the country establish a legal right to rescue any creature they believe is treated inhumanely. I mean, just imagine if that were true. My God, that would be crazy.
Yeah.
And it talks about how the chickens, the 4 chickens that she rescued, she claims, but it really sounds like it's true, were covered in scratches, bruises, and parasites. Her lawyer, who I don't know, is named Little. I can't find his first name here. But during his opening statement, apparently he argued that the evidence will reveal that what matters is not what Rosenberg did, but rather what compelled her to take such extreme measures. And for the same reason, a bystander is legally allowed to break a window to rescue a dog trapped in a hot car. Her defense team is expected to argue that Rosenberg had a right to take those chickens. That's exactly the point. And believe me, to get a news outlet to actually talk what the point is in one of these trials is really good. So kudos on getting this on getting this article, which is really does get to the issues, talking about the necessity defense, which is basically this defense, which according to them deems that a person's actions were justified if they had exhausted every other option before breaking the law, which obviously is true. She has not been allowed to bring the necessity defense because the court specifically said that extending the defense to situations where the harm is to non-human beings would not be appropriate because it would open the floodgates and allow individuals to violate the law whenever they felt warranted. No, it wouldn't. It would allow individuals to violate the law whenever an animal was being treated, including illegally treated cruelly. Like that. It's just a total acknowledgement that people are breaking the law, the cruelty law, all the time. And if we allowed people to steal animals who are being treated cruelly, it literally would open the floodgates. But isn't that kind of a problem that there are so many animals out there being treated illegally cruelly? Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So it's a good article. I'm really glad to see it.
But you did say it's not the article you would have written, and that does beg the question, what's the article you would have written?
Oh, well, I would have just said she was that it was a disgrace that she isn't allowed to bring the necessity defense, which is clearly the applicable defense. And so the jury can be influenced by some of the testimony to bring their own conclusions, because the necessity defense is basically just common sense. Mm-hmm. It's like you can do something that would be illegal if you're preventing a greater harm. And the jury can still use common sense, but they're not being allowed to hear the law. I mean, that's one of the, and I would have said she was absolutely right. And I would have said that factory farming is the greatest evil ever. But, I would have said something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm right. And the rest of the world hasn't caught up yet.
Well, I'm with some, present company excluded, by which I mean the listeners.
But this article did get it. I mean, they got the point. Here's another, can I do one more quote?
Absolutely.
Though Rosenberg is technically the one on trial, they, meaning her defense team, plan to force a deep review of the often unsavory practices occurring at meat processing facilities across the country. It's why DXE's often viral, quote, rescues are a dare to law enforcement to charge the trespassers with crimes, and why Rosenberg is facing prison time when she could have settled for a plea deal. They get it.
Yeah, they get it.
Good sign.
Yeah. This next article,
I hope the jury gets it. That's a little bit more.
This next article that you want to cover is, I have many feelings about it.
It's crazy, right? Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Go ahead.
All right. Animal welfare meets Maha. All right. This is in Politico by Kelly Hooper and Sophie Gardner. And it's talking about, this is the lead line. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has made phasing out animal testing a part of his Make America Healthy Again plan. Politico's Aaron Schumacher reports.
Wow.
All right. So, I mean, we've kind of heard hints of this before, the stuff coming out of the NIH and whatever. And apparently he is specifically asking agencies under his purview, which is, basically that governs all of our health. God help us, to refine high-tech methods of testing chemicals that don't involve killing animals. And the point of this article is that this, even though what he's saying is this is because it will do a better job and the science is better, the article points out it's also got an ancillary benefit for Republicans, animal rights activists like what they're hearing. And that's another opportunity for President Donald Trump to co-opt a traditionally left-leaning constituency. Now, I don't think animal rights activists are a left-leaning constituency. I think many people, this is just my experience, many people who care about animals are more likely to vote on the quote unquote left than the right because they care about other issues, not because the left is better. Neither the left nor the right politically is good on animal issues, except maybe a few, like, I don't even think on pet issues. I don't think there's any difference. And left with no ability to vote on behalf of animals, a lot of people who care about other issues that are in alignment with the left tend to vote more on the left. That's certainly not exclusively. It's just that animal issues don't govern our voting behavior because there's nobody doing the right thing about animals, and we have nobody to vote for except for a few people, and most of them aren't effective because they can't be all by themselves. So I don't think that's a right, really, interpretation of what's happening, but this opens up a lot of possibilities. And ironically, wait till you hear this one. This is going to make you insane. Ironically, it's also gotten some blowback from a faction of conservatives, themselves animal rights advocates, proving my point, I might add, who don't think the administration is moving fast enough and believe Kennedy's advisors are slow walking the plan to appease scientists. Among these, Laura Loomer. Talk about some strange bedfellows. All right, Laura Loomer has apparently joined forces with White Coat Waste, which of course is that organization that's on the conservative, I hate the word conservative, it's so ridiculous. On the right-wing side, that has taken this government should not be wasting its money on animal research position. And they've been on the podcast, of course, and combating, this is a quote from Laura Loomer. I'm quoting Laura Loomer. Combating taxpayer-funded animal testing is an issue that can completely shatter the Democrats' stronghold on the issue of animal welfare and animal rights. I think she's wrong because like I just said, I don't think the Democrats have a stronghold. I think they've never taken a principled position on animal rights. And we all know that. So I think they've got this wrong, but boy, like, this is really exciting to open up this. This is going to be an area of contention. This is going to be an area of controversy. This is going to create opportunities to start talking. And, once they start talking about animal cruelty in science, like, why would we not stop asking them questions about animal cruelty in agriculture and many other areas? Like, it's all the same issue. And stuff where, the Democrats and the Republicans have really been completely aligned, like on fighting factory farming. I mean, they're aligned in that we're not going to fight factory farming. There are possibilities here. I swear there are possibilities here. I don't exactly know what they are, but I'm excited.
Okay, I'm gonna just sit back and see what happens. This is definitely one of those really
Really
things.
interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Laura Loomer, our new ally.
Okay. Well, this was a pretty fascinating episode, I think. Just all in all, I don't think that I did anything but learn. But
well, Jimmy really brings the energy. You gotta.
Yeah,
he's an inspiring guy.
Yeah, he's veganically grown. He himself is veganically grown, you could say. And I just want to thank our listeners out there. We have some things coming up. Last Friday, by the way, Tracy Ryman, the new president of PETA.
Yeah, if you missed that, don't go back because doesn't everybody really want to know where PETA's headed? Like it's pretty important to anybody who cares about animals to know where PETA's headed.
Yeah.
Now that Ingrid Newkirk has taken an emeritus position.
And tomorrow, Friday, Gail Eisnitz will be our guest. This was our Flock Friday interview, so we had some Flock members live and joining us for the interview. The bonus content was the Q&A with Gail Eisnitz, and that will be arriving to your inbox if you're a Flock member on Monday.
And she, of course, has a new book out it's called Out of Sight. Really, it's a memoir, really, of her extraordinary career investigating mostly a lot of slaughterhouses, also factory farms, and getting extraordinary press, like at a time when nobody else was doing it, and really bring attention. I mean, I think that we all know about things about factory farming and slaughter that we would not know if it were not for Gail Eisnitz. And the memoir also covers her just really crazy health challenges, and it was a very moving interview.
Very moving. Oh, and if you're listening to this, you are moving to us. Not literally, unless you move to Rochester, which, the more the merrier. But I just mean you inspire us. So thank you for being out there. Be sure to follow us and share this episode on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or Blue Sky at Our Hen House. And we will talk to you next time.